In a world obsessed with conformity, social clout, and groupthink, few figures stand out more than the Sigma male, the enigmatic lone wolf who carves his own path, answers only to himself, and seems completely untouched by the need for external validation. He operates on a code of internal discipline, quiet confidence, and radical independence. While society often idolizes extroverted leaders or attention-seeking personalities, the Sigma moves in silence, making power plays that few even notice until the results are undeniable. But here's the truth: embodying the Sigma archetype isn't about style, image, or acting mysterious. It's a deep-rooted mindset, a lifestyle defined by autonomy, unwavering self-respect, and the ability to thrive without applause. Sure, it can be empowering to recognize Sigma traits in yourself. But sometimes, the more eye-opening question is this: what if you're not as Sigma as you think? What if certain behaviors, beliefs, or reactions reveal that you're still running on scripts that don't belong to you? In this video, we're breaking down 8 unmistakable signs that you're not a Sigma male, not to criticize, but to clarify. Because awareness is the first step to transformation. Let's get into it. Number 1, your ambitions live only in your head. We live in a world where dreaming big is glorified, but dreaming is easy. Anyone can imagine a better future, a successful career, or a breakthrough project. The hard part? Making it real. That's where most people stall, and where the Sigma male rises. A Sigma doesn't just fantasize about his goals, he engineers them into reality. His mind doesn't get high off vague plans or hypothetical outcomes. He maps ideas to actions. He builds systems, deadlines, frameworks, routines, that convert imagination into execution. Even before he tells anyone what he's working on, there's already a rough version, a draft, a prototype. For the Sigma, progress is sacred, and momentum is the only language he trusts. Now ask yourself this: are your dreams still locked in your mind? Do you talk endlessly about what you want to do, but have little or nothing to show for it? Do you rework the same vision board over and over, telling yourself it's preparation, when it's really just avoidance? If the only evidence of your goals exists in group chats, journaling sessions, or your nightly thoughts before falling asleep, then you're entertaining your ambitions, not pursuing them. The problem isn't your capacity to imagine. It's your refusal, or inability, to act with consistent intent. A Sigma male feels physically uncomfortable sitting on an idea for too long. He doesn't need permission or perfect conditions. Even a rough, ugly first version is better than endless theory. He knows that action, no matter how small, is what transforms a dream into a direction. If weeks or months pass and your passion project is still nothing more than a concept floating in your mind, you're not moving like a Sigma. You're stuck in the illusion of potential. And that illusion, while comforting, doesn't get results. The Sigma's edge is execution. He doesn't just think like a visionary, he moves like one. Number 2, approval fuels your decisions. Here's the brutal truth: if your identity requires constant reinforcement from others, you're not steering your own life, you're just adjusting your sails to catch whichever social wind is blowing that day. And that's the antithesis of the Sigma male. Sigma males are immune, not indifferent, to praise and criticism. They appreciate recognition, but they don't depend on it. Their choices aren't filtered through the lens of, will people like this? But rather, is this aligned with my principles and goals? This distinction is massive. Because while most people live for applause, Sigmas live for mastery. Their validation comes from the quiet certainty of self-respect, not the fleeting dopamine hit of a like button. If you find yourself tailoring your opinions to match the mood of the room, or curating your behavior for social media approval, ask yourself, who's really making the decisions here? Is it you, or your audience? There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting recognition. The danger is when that desire hijacks your direction. When you start choosing careers based on status rather than passion. When you share life updates just for validation, not to connect. When your energy levels rise or fall depending on how others react, that's when you know you're still plugged into the external approval matrix. The Sigma doesn't need a crowd to feel worthy. He would rather be misunderstood and aligned with his values than celebrated for something inauthentic. He's willing to walk alone if the path demands it. He doesn't just act differently, he thinks differently. When a Sigma scraps a project that everyone else loves, it's not rebellion, it's integrity. So if your motivation surges only when someone's watching, and collapses the moment you're alone, you're not driven by purpose. You're performing. And that means you're still far from the internal freedom that defines the Sigma male. Number 3, discipline evaporates under temptation. Let's get real, most people don't have discipline. What they have are temporary habits propped up by structure, alarm clocks, motivational videos, accountability buddies, and productivity apps. Remove those external systems, and the behavior crumbles. That's not discipline. That's dependency. Sigma males operate differently. Their self-control is internalized. They don't need a manager, a reward system, or a crowd watching to stay on course. Their discipline doesn't switch off when no one's around. Why? Because it's not driven by fear or performance, it's tied to identity. Doing the hard thing isn't an exception for them, it's the default. A Sigma's routines don't collapse under stress or boredom, they thrive in those conditions. He doesn't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" He executes because that's who he is. Whether it's fitness, skill building, or business, his commitment endures in silence and solitude. Now contrast that with someone who sets big goals, until the weekend rolls in. They install 5 apps to block distractions, then override them by Tuesday. They swear off junk food, but somehow the cheat day turns into a cheat week. If temptation derails you consistently, the truth is hard to deny, your self-governance is still fragile. This isn't about being perfect. Even Sigmas slip. But their lapses are rare, calculated, and consciously chosen, not impulsive. They indulge intentionally, not because they're too weak to say no. That's the difference. Discipline, to the Sigma, is freedom. The freedom to choose what matters over what's easy even when no one's watching. If your progress depends on being micromanaged, by technology, social pressure, or another person, then the engine behind your behavior isn't truly yours. Until your discipline holds up under temptation, stress, and boredom, it's still conditional. And conditional discipline is not the Sigma way. Number 4, you wear status on your sleeve. We live in a culture obsessed with optics. Flashy cars, designer brands, lifestyle posts curated for maximum envy. It's not success anymore unless it's seen. But this is exactly where the Sigma male diverges. He doesn't chase appearances. He chases substance. When a Sigma makes a purchase, it's based on performance, not prestige. The jacket might be old, but it's weatherproof. The phone might not be the newest, but it works flawlessly. For the Sigma, function always trumps flash. He selects tools, not trophies. Because he knows that the more you serve your image, the less time you spend mastering your reality. Ask yourself this: how do you feel when your new outfit goes unnoticed? When your expensive gadget doesn't earn compliments? When the post you crafted for attention gets silence? If disappointment creeps in, it exposes the motive. You weren't buying for utility, you were buying applause. And this isn't limited to material things. It includes how you present your life. Are you constantly name-dropping, humble-bragging, or positioning yourself for approval? That's not confidence. That's camouflage. It's the quiet admission that you're still building your value outside in, hoping others will reflect it back. Sigmas take the opposite approach. Their value is grown from the inside out. Prestige is never the goal, it's the residue of consistent excellence. They don't need to signal their worth with logos or likes. If the world recognizes their competence, fine. If not, they continue regardless. Their focus is the mission, not the mirror. And that's the paradox: the less they seek attention, the more gravity they seem to have. Because in a world of people trying to look important, the Sigma just is. If your self-worth still needs public validation, if status is something you wear instead of something you build, you're not operating on Sigma frequency yet. You're still in the performance loop, playing a character instead of becoming the man behind the role. Number 5, blame is your default exit strategy. When things go sideways, missed deadlines, failed projects, broken relationships, the average person scrambles to protect their ego. The easiest way to do that? Point fingers outward. It was the incompetent teammate. The economy. Poor timing. Lack of support. Anything but self-responsibility. While that tactic may shield your pride in the moment, it does something far more dangerous in the long term: it strips you of power. Sigma males approach failure differently. They don't see setbacks as personal attacks or permanent scars, they treat them like data points. Instead of asking, "Who messed this up?" a Sigma asks, "What did I overlook? What didn't I anticipate? What will I adjust next time?" This mindset isn't about guilt, it's about growth. Because the Sigma understands a powerful truth: the moment you take ownership, you regain control. And control is how you reshape outcomes. Blaming others feels satisfying in the short term, but it cements helplessness. It frames life as something that happens to you instead of something that responds to you. Sigmas don't outsource their fate. They don't wait for fairness or ideal conditions, they make calculated moves under any conditions. Even when the odds are stacked, they would rather own a failure than pretend they had no say in it. Why? Because responsibility is leverage, it's the first tool in the Sigma's arsenal for evolution. So if your gut reaction in times of stress is to assign fault, defend your image, or explain away your shortcomings, pause. That reflex reveals where your center of gravity still lies, in ego preservation, not personal sovereignty. And until you replace blame with accountability, you'll keep repeating the same cycles, with the same excuses, still far from the Sigma's level of self-mastery. Number 6. Solitude feels like a punishment. In today's hyper-connected world, solitude is often misunderstood. To many, it feels like exile, like something must be wrong if no one is texting, calling, or liking your content. But to a Sigma male, solitude isn't a void, it's prime territory. It's where the noise fades, the masks come off, and the real work begins. If being alone feels uncomfortable, if it sparks restlessness, compulsive scrolling, or a need to constantly check in with others, you're not avoiding boredom. You're avoiding yourself. This is one of the most telling indicators of non-Sigma wiring. When solitude doesn't feel like a sanctuary, it's because your internal world hasn't been made livable yet. Sigma males flip that script. To them, alone time isn't isolation, it's incubation. It's where mental models are sharpened, future moves are mapped, and old wounds are quietly examined and transcended. They're not afraid of silence because they've confronted the things most people drown out with noise: fear of inadequacy, unprocessed emotion, identity confusion. While others use distraction to escape themselves, the Sigma uses solitude to meet himself more deeply. You'll often find that some of the most influential moves made by Sigmas were born not in the spotlight, but in obscurity, in quiet rooms, late nights, unplugged hours. That's because solitude, to a Sigma, is not absence, it's access. Access to the raw material of power, insight, self-regulation, clarity. So if you feel the need to escape yourself the moment no one else is around, that's a signal. You're still tethered to external validation. Your identity is still a reflection, not a source. And until solitude becomes not just tolerable but valuable, the inner fortress that defines a Sigma male remains under construction. Number 7. You see the world only in black and white. One of the most subtle signs that you're not thinking like a Sigma male is the tendency to divide everything into extremes. People are either trustworthy or toxic, situations are either complete successes or total failures, and decisions are either right or wrong, with no in-between. While black and white thinking can feel comforting because it simplifies life into digestible pieces, it's actually a sign of emotional immaturity and underdeveloped reasoning. The Sigma male operates on an entirely different wavelength. He understands that truth is often layered, and that wisdom lives in the gray zones. Life is messy, people are complex, and outcomes are rarely predictable. He doesn't need everything to fit into tidy categories. Instead, he welcomes ambiguity as a natural part of growth and decision-making. If you find yourself labeling every past relationship as toxic, every disagreement as a betrayal, or every failure as a permanent loss, you're not being realistic, you're avoiding nuance. And when you avoid nuance, you avoid growth. You stop asking important questions like, what did I miss? How did I contribute to this? Or, what am I not seeing clearly yet? The Sigma male, in contrast, learns to hold two seemingly contradictory ideas at once. He can recognize someone's flaws without writing them off entirely. He can critique a system while still functioning within it. He can be confident and still admit when he's wrong. This kind of flexible, adaptive mindset is a cornerstone of true independence. Rigid, binary thinking is more about protecting ego than it is about understanding reality. It creates a sense of control, but it kills curiosity, and without curiosity, you're not evolving, you're simply reacting. If you want to think like a Sigma, you have to get comfortable in the in-between, where questions matter more than quick answers, and where your mind stays open even when your path isn't clear. Number 8. You're obsessed with checking every Sigma box. Ironically, one of the clearest signs that you're not a Sigma male is the constant need to prove that you are one. If you're scrolling through lists of Sigma traits, measuring yourself against every bullet point, and modifying your behavior to fit the mold, you've already missed the essence of the archetype. The true Sigma male isn't trying to be a Sigma. He is one, by default, by design, or by lived experience. His identity doesn't come from quizzes, internet checklists, or validation from comment sections. It's forged in solitude, sharpened by trial, and anchored by internal clarity. He doesn't perform the role, he embodies the principles: self-sufficiency, quiet confidence, and strategic detachment. If your focus is on ticking off external markers, like being aloof, mysterious, lone wolf-like, or hyper-rational, you're still outsourcing your identity. You're behaving like a Sigma because you want to appear like one, not because it's an organic extension of your values. That's mimicry, not authenticity. A real Sigma knows that not all traits will apply all the time. Some days he's assertive, others, reserved. Sometimes he engages socially, and other times, he disappears into his own world for weeks. The consistency is not in behavior, it's in principle. He knows what drives him, what he values, and what he refuses to compromise on. Everything else is negotiable. Obsessing over whether you qualify as a Sigma means you're still anchored in external judgment, which directly contradicts the autonomy and inner stability the archetype represents. Ironically, the more desperately you chase the title, the further you drift from the mindset. Remember, the Sigma male is not a costume you wear, it's a blueprint you live. Falling short of the label doesn't make you weak, it simply shows where the scaffolding of your identity is still being held up by outside opinions instead of built from within. Number 9, you constantly seek a tribe to belong to. One of the core traits that sets Sigma males apart is their profound ability to stand alone, not just physically, but philosophically and emotionally. They are self-contained systems, comfortable walking their own path even if no one else is walking beside them. This isn't because they dislike people, but because they don't need people to feel whole. If you find yourself always joining movements, clinging to social labels, or needing to identify as part of something larger to feel secure, whether it's a political ideology, a fitness tribe, a social group, or even a fandom, then your sense of self is still externally scaffolded. That need to merge with a collective often masks an inner void, a discomfort with being alone with your own thoughts, beliefs, and identity without borrowed reinforcement. Sigma males operate with the opposite psychology. They can engage with groups, but never fuse with them. They'll walk into a room full of like-minded people and still question the consensus. They'll explore ideologies but never be owned by one. They treat communities like tools, not crutches, temporary places to connect, not cages to belong to. If your confidence swells when you're surrounded by allies but shrinks when you're isolated or challenged, that's a clear sign you're still operating under tribal dependency. The Sigma has grown beyond that. His loyalty lies not with groups, but with truth, logic, and personal integrity. He doesn't fear rejection from the tribe because he never required its approval to begin with. Ultimately, belonging is easy. Becoming yourself without needing to belong? That's rare, and that's Sigma. Number 10, you avoid conflict to keep the peace. Let's be honest, conflict is uncomfortable. But it's also unavoidable, and often necessary. The difference between those who fear conflict and those who navigate it lies in self-assurance. Sigma males are not conflict chasers, but they're also not afraid of friction. Why? Because their inner stability doesn't depend on keeping everyone comfortable. If you find yourself constantly biting your tongue, sugarcoating your beliefs, or backing down just to avoid tension, you're likely confusing peace with passivity. And that's a dangerous illusion. What looks like harmony on the outside often breeds quiet resentment on the inside. Sigma males value authenticity over artificial calm. They don't lash out or escalate needlessly, but if a boundary is crossed, they will respond. They understand that real respect is built not by pleasing others, but by standing firm in truth. This means having uncomfortable conversations, asserting needs, and walking away when necessary, all without drama, and without needing others to approve of their choices. Avoiding conflict doesn't preserve relationships, it dilutes them. It trains people to overlook you, overstep you, or misunderstand your values. The Sigma male refuses to operate under that dynamic. He would rather experience a moment of discomfort than live a life where his voice is muted. If you're still measuring your self-worth by how smoothly you can keep things running, or how much you can avoid tension, you're not leading, you're appeasing. And appeasement is never the Sigma way. The Sigma male believes peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of unshakable inner clarity, even when things get messy. Number 11, you need constant structure to function. Sigma males carry their discipline within. Their strength doesn't come from external scaffolding like planners, accountability partners, or color-coded schedules, it comes from internalized standards and self-imposed expectations. They've built a system of values so deeply rooted in identity that even when life turns chaotic, their rhythm holds steady. This doesn't mean they shun structure, they can design and follow systems as needed, but the crucial difference is that they don't depend on it. If their routine is disrupted, their mission remains unchanged. Whether they're in a quiet office, a crowded airport, or a completely unscheduled weekend, their core habits remain intact. They don't panic, procrastinate, or shut down, they recalibrate and continue. Now contrast that with someone who needs constant reminders, detailed timetables, or external pressure to stay productive. If your discipline only shows up when the calendar is perfect, the environment is quiet, or someone is holding you accountable, your control is conditional, not intrinsic. You're functioning within a borrowed framework rather than leading from within. True Sigma discipline is like a compass, it doesn't lose direction when the map is burned. If you removed every routine, every system, every piece of productivity software, could you still show up fully, stay focused, and execute consistently? If not, your motivation may be tied more to external systems than to internal clarity. This is the essence of Sigma self-leadership, the ability to remain directed and purposeful in both structure and chaos. Because a Sigma male doesn't use structure as a crutch, he is the structure. Number 12, you talk more about potential than results. The gap between potential and performance is where many dreams go to die. Sigma males understand this implicitly. They are allergic to empty ambition. They know that saying you could be great means nothing if you aren't proving it daily through tangible results. If you often talk about your goals more than you pursue them, if you're the type who says, "I'm planning to start something big," or "I've got huge ideas," but weeks go by without a single measurable step forward, then your mindset is still aspirational, not Sigma. You're using potential as a placeholder for identity, not as a launchpad for action. Sigmas avoid this trap. They don't advertise the hustle. They don't romanticize being in the lab. They work in silence, obsessed with execution over expression. To them, future success isn't something to be announced, it's something to be built, line by line, quietly, persistently. Only once the foundation is real, solid, and active, might they mention it, and even then, it's not for validation, but possibly for feedback, alignment, or opportunity. The psychological payoff of talking about potential, without the pain of consistent effort, is a form of self-deception. It feels productive, but it's a dopamine loop based on imagination. Sigmas bypass that completely. Their self-esteem is derived from what they've built, not what they say they will build. In short, if you're more attached to the idea of who you could become than the discipline it takes to actually become it, you're still orbiting potential. The Sigma lives in results, because to him, talk is noise, but execution is identity. Final thoughts. By now, you've probably realized, being a Sigma male isn't just a vibe, an aesthetic, or an edgy personality quiz result. It's a deep, unshakable orientation to life. It's a mindset rooted in autonomy, self-mastery, and a quiet refusal to be molded by the masses. This path isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. You won't get badges for walking alone. In fact, sometimes it's downright isolating. But for the true Sigma, that solitude isn't punishment, it's freedom. It's in that silence, in that space between distractions and dependencies, that a Sigma builds something no crowd can give him, an unbreakable identity. We live in a world where noise drowns out intuition. Where people chase likes instead of purpose. Where image is everything, and depth is rare. The Sigma male rejects that world, not with rage, but with quiet rebellion. He walks away from the herd, not because he thinks he's better, but because he knows what they follow isn't real. So if you see pieces of yourself in the signs that don't align with the Sigma path, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you're aware. And awareness is the first step to self-recalibration. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I stopped needing validation? Who would I be if no one was watching? What would I build if I no longer needed permission? Because Sigma males don't wait for ideal conditions, they become the condition. They don't need to be told what matters, they decide what matters. And they don't follow trends, they follow truth, even if that truth costs them comfort, company, or control. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being anti-dependent. It's about cutting the leash, burning the script, and mastering the only person you're truly responsible for, yourself. So don't just admire the Sigma mindset from a distance. Study it. Question your life through it. And then, piece by piece, build a reality that doesn't just look strong, but is strong, whether anyone sees it or not. That's the real Sigma way. Conclusion, the path to authentic self-governance. Each of these signs, whether it's the quiet confidence of independent action, the indifference to external validation, or the ability to derive meaning from solitude, points toward a deeper truth. Real self-governance emerges when borrowed motivation falls away. The goal isn't to conform to an archetype or chase a label, it's to reach a state where such distinctions no longer matter. When your ambitions solidify into disciplined daily action, when the need for approval dims to background noise, and when solitude feels as purposeful as collaboration, the labels, Sigma, Alpha, or otherwise, dissolve. What remains is something far more powerful, unmistakable momentum, a forward drive shaped by principles so intrinsic they could only have been authored by you. This is the essence of true autonomy, not a persona to adopt, but a way of being to uncover. The path isn't about becoming something externally defined, it's about shedding everything that isn't authentically yours. And when that happens, what's left isn't a title, it's undeniable motion, guided by values you've chosen, refined, and lived. If this deep dive challenged the way you see yourself, or the Sigma archetype, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos that cut through the surface and speak to the core. If something here hit home, smash that like button, and let me know in the comments what resonated, or what didn't. I read every one. And if you've got a friend who's been throwing around the Sigma label without understanding what it truly means, share this with them, not to shame, but to spark self-awareness. Your engagement fuels this channel, and helps me keep creating content that respects your time, your mind, and your growth. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay real, and I'll see you in the next one.